I'm glad the UFC stepped up and paid the man what, was fair in his mind because he took it. So he took a deal from them. That's awesome. Congratulations to the UFC on making a fight that should have been made because, you go back. This fight everyone was excited for. Masvidal against Usman.
Yeah.
And then it fell through. And that's how Gilbert Burns came in. And then Gilbert, unfortunately, and I'm sorry for him that he ends up, having the virus and not being able to compete, but right back in place, back to where we were with an incredible welterweight championship fight, and one that I still think is a good one. And I don't care that Masvidal didn't have a ton of time to train because he's been training anyway. Right, Josh?
Yes, exactly. He's been training. A couple things. We talked about it last week. I want people to understand. We filmed our Q&A on Friday. And Burns had just dropped off. We were saying basically to do a little recap for that weekend in the Q&A. We filmed it on Friday. It dropped on Sunday. In that time, we were like, they don't really need to replace the main event. There's no reason for them to do that. And I think that there potentially was some concern that if another fight fell off, they could be in trouble. So they went ahead and jumped on and put Masvidal. They were able to work the deal out. And I'm super happy for him. I'm excited for him. But those of you guys that were ripping into us because they're not going to get the fight. And they finally did get the fight and we're a little late. And they were like, oh, how's this going to resonate a day or two later? You guys are way wrong. Look, guys, this is not a science, man. Okay. Like we cannot say or we can't figure out what any of those people, what anyone's
predict
thinking.
The future.
Exactly. But
I try all the time. It doesn't work.
But we are in that conversation piece of like, hey, I'm glad they got this done. I'm glad that Masvidal finally got close to what he wanted. I'm also glad that in listening to some of his interviews, he said there's a couple things that he said. One of them was he was on the phone when they were negotiating how to get the job done, or how to get the deal done. And when he came up, he said, look, you guys just need to figure it out. His manager was on the phone. Dana White was on the phone. You guys, let's get this deal done. Let's get it figured out. Let's go. Within minutes later, because he said it was kind of stalemated there until he came in and jumped in and said his 2 cents. They finally realized that both sides wanted to get it done. Let's get it done, and they did. So that was great to see. I'm glad. I almost feel like he took a little bit of a page out of when Brendan Schaub said he'd listen to what Joe Silva had to say about him. Except Brendan didn't say anything. He just was on the other line listening to how Joe Silva talks about him. But yeah, so there was that whole part of it, and people don't see that. People don't hear those type of things. And I'm glad that George is bringing that kind of stuff to light because it's important to realize and remember as a fighter, even though he's your manager and he's probably got your best interest at heart when it comes to negotiating contracts because that gets him paid as well. But you still are the one that he works for. You need to remember your manager works for you. And I feel like even though he's got a good relationship with his manager, he did a good thing right there in saying, hey, when he stepped in and goes, let's get this deal done. Let's make it happen. We're close. I think that signified to the UFC, okay, look, George is in. We just need to work out a couple little kinks, and they got it done. There was that. And then secondly, he has been training. He helped Dustin get ready for his fight, which just happened recently. And then also, too, he's been training for the last year, they said the last about 7 to 8 months with Bo Nickel. I'm sorry, man, but Bo Nickel is nasty good, extremely big. People don't realize, like, when you see him wrestle, like, at the NC2As, you see him wrestle in college, he doesn't look big on TV. He's fucking big. He is big. And not to mention, he's extremely strong. I mean, and I talk about how I've had this experience before. I wrestled a lot of kids in high school and in college that the redheaded guys, I don't know what it is, man. It's like ginger power. They are so strong. Just like, it's crazy how strong.
It's the fire coming out of them, man.
Crazy. That's why. Gingers are extremely strong, and I don't think Bo Nickel is any different. Anyways, so he's been training with him. He was training with Dustin Poirier before, and then he's training with Bo Nickel on his wrestling. Yoel Romero. I gotta tell you, I've heard a little bit, some buzzes and stuff from the ATT camp, and they were talking about Bo is able to get him down, but not able to hold him down. And sometimes he struggles to get him down when it's just straight wrestling, not even striking. So if you put that in with the striking and the hesitation of what Usman's got to do to get the takedown. Now, I know we're not talking MMA. We're talking wrestling versus MMA wrestling. There is a difference. Wrestling tends to sometimes go out the door when you're getting hit with some clean shots. Okay, a 2-piece and a soda will do that to you sometimes. And I'm just saying
How about a 3-piece in a soda?
Yeah, there you go. I could do that. I could do a little bit of that. George has fought his whole career against good jiu-jitsu guys, good wrestlers, and Damian Maia being one of them. Couldn't get him. He got him down a couple times. Wasn't able to really hold him down, especially in those early rounds. Then as in the second round, he was able to hold him down a little bit more. And then in the third round, it just kind of became like a stalemate kind of tactic. But George was doing real well up until that moment. Up until those moments, I'm saying he's gotten a lot better. His confidence has gotten a lot better. And we've always said this, that confidence is key in this sport, in any sport. But I'm saying specifically in combat sports when it's one-on-one. And George right now is fucking riding it high right now.
Oh, did you see the robe he freaking wore on his private charter to Abu Dhabi? You got to go, oh, that's pure gangster.
That's funny.
Listen,
he's living the life.
Jiu-Jitsu Jesus can wear pink and make it look good.
I love it.
Oh,
I love it.
Here's the whole thing about this. You can sit there and say what you want, and these guys are totally different. Kamaru is phenomenal. And one thing that I see out of him in a difference than I see from what George brings is they obviously both have their strength. Kamaru's stand-up is not as good as George. It's not as technical. It's not as good. And if this is a stand-up fight, it's going to be Masvidal. The wrestling-wise, no matter what you say and whoever you want to say that Masvidal is wrestling with, and I know Bo Nickel, and he is phenomenal, and obviously Yoel, but the wrestling part you've got to give to Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
Submission-wise, it's the same. So really, we've got that separation of stand-up and taking it to the ground. Can Usman take it to the ground? Masvidal's got a record of 35-13 or so. He's had losses and stuff, but he has, if you look at what he's done, I don't think he's been taken out since that Toby Amata fight where he got caught when he was fighting in Bellator and he got caught with that inverted triangle.
Yeah.
He was just trying to stand up and it caught him and then he was stuck and he went all the way out. And that was back in 2009. All right. That's 11 years since someone has actually stopped him. Now he's been beat, but it's always been by a decision. A judge's decision has beaten George. And the real question here is stamina. You saw when Masvidal was fighting Diaz, he was putting it on Nate. But as the fight was going on, he did slow down a little, not a lot like people are talking about. No. Oh, he was exhausted. Bullshit. No. Okay, he was still fighting well. But that was a 5-round fight, and he was showing that he could go that 5 rounds. Can he go with Usman trying to take him down? And the real question is, will Usman work to try to take him down repeatedly? Because in this fight, he's got to look and say, man, if they say if I have to take him down 20 times, I'm going to take him down 21. I just got to do what I do to make him miserable and get my win. So both guys have their ways of winning this fight. It's a phenomenal matchup. I can't wait to watch it.
100% agree. Okay.